Hello everyone, today I will be discussing the deadly cat cough. Now, this disease we'll be discussing in great detail. I will go from the vector, the reservoir, and all of that good stuff. To begin with, the vector's scientific name is Tenosyphilitis felis, also known as the cat flea. Its preferred hosts include cats, but they'll also feed on other mammals. Now, the life cycle of this cat flea has 4 stages, including the egg, larvae, pupae, and of course, the adult flea. The life cycle starts when an adult female flea lays eggs on the host. Typically, when the host moves or shakes out its fur, the eggs will fall off the host. You'll see a large collection of eggs where the host likes to lay down and rest. 2 to 21 days after the eggs have been laid, larvae will hatch and begin to feed on their food source for approximately 2 weeks. At which point, they spin cocoons and enter the pupae stage. During the flea's time in the cocoon, it goes through complete metamorphosis and will eventually emerge as an adult flea. Fleas can survive in the pupal stage for long periods of time. They'll only leave this stage when changes in the environment alert them to potential hosts in the vicinity. Once cat fleas enter the adult stage, they'll be looking for a blood meal and then to mate. They mate several times in order to produce viable eggs. The vector's habitat tend to be in areas that are temperate or tropical. As indicated in the map, they prefer these kind of areas where the hosts tend to rest and in warmer tropical areas. Our vector's feeding habits are as follows. In the egg stage, the unhatched larvae feed on the nutrients that have been deposited inside of the egg. Larvae feed on the feces of adult fleas as well as other organic debris found at or near their hatch site. And in the pupal stage, the flea doesn't consume anything. It is during this stage that the flea goes through metamorphosis. So during this time in the cocoon, the flea is really relying on the nutrients that is consumed during the larval stage. And of course, adults feed on the blood of their host by piercing the host's skin with its mouth parts. Now, our overview of the hosts are going to be humans. The areas of exposure include Africa, airplanes, airport, bespotted African servals, residence homes, and their backyards. The geographical range are southeastern borders. They're located in areas with hot and humid climates, so this is evident, and bordering bodies of water. Here's an example of an area that they would most likely be. Some major symptoms included fever, headache, cough, chest pain, quarter spot, bronchospasm, myalgia, pneumonia, and bacteremia. Our patient 0 was identified as Vicky Ereclucrona. I apologize if there was a mispronunciation. Our continued human hosts are Cecile Abreu, which she was a pet sitter and infected at Madeline Richer residence while pet sitting for a cat. James Hess, which is an animal care specialist of a mobile cat shelter. He was infected while bathing the animals. Sadie Waring, an inventory control specialist, infected while trapping a serval cat at the local golf course. Laura Sistrunk, aspiring rider, infected at her residence during the flea infestation from a recently adopted cat. And Madeline Richer, Delta Airlines stewardess, infected during a flea infestation from adopted cat. We also have Mark Albert, which was a stockbroker, infected during a flea infestation at residence. Mark Pace, a vet technician, infected while treating flea-ridden animals. And Rosemary Avery, a housekeeper, infected during a flea infestation at Mark Albert's home while sitting for the owner's house. Vicky Ereclucrona, which was our patient 0, owner of the bespotted African servals, infected during the flea infestation. And Yolande Grotti, outdoor enthusiast who took cats on walks and infected during flea infestation at residence as well. Our reservoir is the Leptellurus serval, or the bespotted African serval cat, which is a wild cat found in Sub-Saharan Africa. In Africa, it is wild. However, these cats are often caught and domesticated as exotic pets and shipped around the world to those who can afford it. It is prized for their fur. Here's me just demonstrating the locations that Their habitat is in the grassland savanna found in sub-Saharan Africa, and they have no natural habitat in the US, of course. The interaction with Vector. The place where patient 0 was keeping these cats before selling them got an infestation with fleas. Patient 0 had sold the majority of the cats before noticing the flea infestation. That is how the disease started to spread. That was how the pathogen was introduced to the cat fleas in the US. The bacteria is found in the blood of the several cats, and once they were bitten by the fleas, the pathogen was now inside of the fleas, and the disease started to spread with every new host that the flea jumped to. Our disease agent, or disease, its scientific name is Pediococcus pneumonia. Its type is bacterial. The common name of this disease is the deadly cat cough, of course. Some important physical and taxonomic details is it's shaped, as I have demonstrated in the following slide. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and show about the shape of this bacteria. It is also gram-positive. It was new and previously unknown species and was named according to the symptoms it produced in humans. It grows best in the pH of 6.5 to about 7.5. The ideal temperature for growth is around 37 degrees, but it can grow up to 45 degrees Celsius, which is well above the normal temperature range for most bacteria. It does not form from endospores. Some major symptoms, of course, are going to include the headache, the cough, chest pain, Horder's spot, bronchospasm, myalgia, and eventually bacteremia, pneumonia, and of course the worst, which will be what no one wants, of course, death. Here's the cat flea. Here's a comprehensive control plan. Our comprehensive control plan has been designed to break all links in the disease transmission cycle. These links include transmission between pathogen to reservoir, reservoir to vector, vector to reservoir, vector to host, pathogen to host. The more links that we can break in transmission, the better chance we have of eradicating the disease. Control plan for pathogen to reservoir. Our methods is the most likely mode of infection for these cats would be through their food source. Before they were imported from the US from Africa, the several cats came into the US already infected with the pathogen. The method of control for this would be to run a test on cat food and test for the presence of Pediococcus pneumonia and recall all the cat food products found to be carrying this bacteria. So our first step in implementing this would be to contact all cat food manufacturers and ask them to test for the presence of this bacteria on all of their current and future inventory. In step 2, we'll collect all the results of the test and issue a mandatory recall on all cat food sources that test positive for Pediococcus pneumonia, in order for it not to spread anymore, of course. In the third step, we'll implement fines against pet food manufacturers that are non-compliant with their recalls. So in the case that they're greedy, possibly, and they don't want to recall their products, even though it has tested positive for this bacteria, we will issue fines. Step 4 will be to notify the public of the recalls and ask them to be very diligent in keeping updated on the recalls, especially cat owners, since this will impose, of course, a higher risk for them since the vector is a cat flea. So because of the risk of this bacteria posed to the public, we will make sure that everyone is notified about this and make sure that everyone kind of keeps an eye out for this possible disease. We expect to find contamination sources in some food samples. Recalling these products will not change the number of existing cases, but it will prevent further spread of the disease. The most likely problem with this step would be lack of cooperation from manufacturers. We expect that imposing fines on manufacturers will ensure their compliance with our requests and mitigate this potential problem. We will continue with regular testing of pet food products for bacterial contamination and keep consumers informed of any recalls. The mode of infection for fleas is when they take a blood meal from an infected cat. The fleas are then able to infect other reservoirs and hosts by biting them. Controlling either the reservoir or vector would break this link. The control method would be to advise the public with pets to make sure that their pets are up to date on their vaccines and all preventative medications, especially flea and tick prevention. Our first step for implementation will be to send out a public notification of vaccination recommendations and preventative medicine schedules and ask that they follow these guidelines. Our second step will be to start up an education campaign to notify the public of safe ways to take care of flea infestations. Our third step will be to post informational handouts on fleas and flea prevention in public spaces. And of course, our final step will be to increase these efforts during peak flea season. Now, with the pet vaccinations and preventative measures, we expect the number of future cases to decline. However, due to the controversy behind vaccinations, we expect resistance from the public. For those who oppose vaccinations, preventative care is still an option, which will also help decrease the chance of another outbreak. Our control plan for vector to reservoir is basically the link between cats and infected fleas. The method to control at this point would be to develop a feline vaccine for domesticated cats and strongly recommend that all cat owners give this vaccine to their cats. This would effectively prevent the transmission of the bacteria from one cat to another via flea bite, because the cats that are being bitten by infected Syphilis fleas would be immune to the bacteria and essentially be a dead end for the pathogen at this point. We will implement this through the development and testing for vaccine on cats, distributing this vaccine to vet clinics around the U.S., educate veterinarians on the danger of deadly cat cough disease, and finally post informational flyers for the vaccination in veterinary offices. We believe that the outcome will be given the success of the human vaccine we've developed, we expect that the feline vaccination will be very effective at preventing infection. The biggest problem will be, of course, the people who do refuse to take the vaccine. But we will try to combat this problem by educating pet owners about the serious dangers of the disease, both to their pets and themselves. Our control plan for vector to host will be a bit different. The method of control for this link is going to be to educate the public on how to prevent flea bites. This includes wearing bug spray containing DEET when in areas that fleas are common. Also, wear long pants and long sleeves when outdoors. Fleas cannot bite through clothing, so keeping skin covered will minimize risk of bites. People with pets should be encouraged to keep their pets current on flea prevention medication. Special consideration should be expected for rural areas, as inhabitants and domestic animals are more likely to be infected compared to their urban counterparts. We will implement this, of course, through creation of educational videos, flyers, and official announcements that can be shared on social media and in public places. Step 2 will be, of course, to distribute the videos, flyers, and announcements to the public. We expect a moderate level of compliance from the public with these recommendations. Even when people have the knowledge of how to prevent flea bites, some people still will not make the effort to continue these practices. So the most that we can do to combat this is to continue educating the public on the dangers of deadly cat cough in hopes that they will understand the consequences and take necessary measures to protect themselves and their families. The method of control for this link is to create a vaccine. So our control plan for pathogen to host is going to be basically to create this vaccine that will break the link between the pathogen and the host. Immunization provides potential hosts with immunity to the pathogen should they come into contact with it. The way we'll implement this is through several steps. Step 1, we'll develop the vaccine. Step 2, we'll mass produce the working vaccine. And the third step, we'll send shipments of the vaccine to all major population centers and have CDC agents ready to take possession of the vaccines and assist in further distribution. With our step 4, upon the arrival of the vaccines in the major population centers, we'll ship the vaccines out to the 2 largest hospitals based on the number of staff in each congressional district for easier access to the public for vaccination. The hospital will be each CDC team's home base for their area and also where all the vaccinations will be given. Step 5 will be to set up vaccination programs at all the facilities mentioned above. And 6, we'll alert the public via all available news outlets, including TV, radio, newspapers, social media, and in specific hospitals in each congressional district, we'll be administering the vaccines and encourage vaccination, of course. Step 7 will be to alert the public that the vaccination is mandatory for children to enroll in a public school, and work with the State Department to make the vaccine mandatory for all persons entering the United States. For Step 8, we will be notifying all hospitals distributing the vaccine that elderly 65 and up and children under the age of 18 and pregnant women should be the priority when distributing vaccine. And of course, Step 9 is going to put CDC agents on a publicity campaign for the vaccine to promote it and encourage the public to get vaccinated against this deadly cat cough. And of course, Step 10, CDC agents will keep track of who has been vaccinated at their respective hospitals and monitor the area they have been assigned for confirmed cases of the disease. Agents should report bi-weekly updates of the percentage of their area that has been vaccinated and the number of confirmed cases in that area. 11 and 12 kind of work together. Basically, we'll work with manufacturers to ensure that each hospital has enough vaccines to keep up with the demand and prevent shortages. And Step 12 once the outbreak is under control, we'll distribute the vaccine to vendors across the nation for regular vaccination. This new vaccine has been found 94% effective in preventing new cases of deadly cat cough. Unfortunately, the acceptance rate is only around 20%. Continued research indicating the safety of the vaccine should help prevent the spread of false information and increase acceptance rates. The recent response from the CDC notes that only 20% of the high-risk areas of deadly cat cough disease have taken the vaccine. So, efforts should be made to increase public awareness of the facts surrounding this disease in order to curb the spread of misinformation and increase vaccinations. In order to implement this, we will be focusing on public education on the disease and will focus on the risk of death in order to enforce the severity of the spread of deadly cat cough disease. With time, tests on the vaccine should reach standards applicable to the current National Vaccine Registry. Our research should be able to dissuade many of the points made by anti-vaxxers. Hopefully raise public awareness of the disease, alleviate public fear of the vaccine, and increase the rate of immunizations. In the future, complete eradication of the disease is definitely possible. Thanks for watching.